Game 3 of India's journey in the 2019 World Cup, and we are at Trent Bridge in Nottingham. On Thursday, India play New Zealand. But will they really play? Because, well, you can see behind me the ground is already covered. It's drizzling. I'm wearing a rain jacket. No need for these sunnies. I should just throw them away, really. It's been raining non-stop. And the forecast is not good at all. Around 11 tomorrow, it's supposed to be 90% rain. In fact, it was 40% rain yesterday. That was forecast, but now it's changed to 90% rain. So the match is in danger of being a complete washout. But the bigger news, however, is coming from the Indian camp. Shikhar Dhawan has been ruled out for the next 2 weeks. He's likely to miss at least 3 games owing to a fracture in his thumb. We haven't been given the exact details of the injury that he has sustained in the game against Australia when making that match-winning 100. But he's ruled out. The other news is that Rishabh Pant is flying in. He'll join the team in Manchester, but he will not be a replacement. He will only be on standby should something happen. Aditya, Shikhar Dhawan, huge loss, and obviously the team management is thinking maybe he can recover in 2 weeks, come back for the latter stages of the match, maybe the England game on June 30th, and probably build his form once again towards the knockouts.
Yeah, I mean, in the last match, we were discussing how important Shikhar Dhawan is going to be for India's campaign heading forward. Especially for one reason is that he's been the king of ICC tournaments, he's been getting runs, and no better way to start off with 100 against a team like Australia. Now, obviously, one of their bigger batsmen, I would say, is out of contention. So yeah, it kind of throws the momentum out, you can say, for India. But I don't think it's much of a problem for them because this team has been repeatedly claiming that they have plenty of options available for number 4. And I don't think that should be much of a problem for them to get someone in number 4, because without Shikhar Dhawan, obviously KL Rahul automatically moves at the top of the order.
Exactly, and that is what the Indian team management will be pondering in the build-up to this game. Again, if the game happens, but you have to ponder over playing 11. There is the option of KL Rahul, as you said. Sanjay Bangar in the pre-match press conference, pretty much confirming that KL Rahul will automatically go to the opening spot and open with Rohit Sharma. It remains to be seen how he copes with shifting up and down the order. Vijay Shankar batted in the nets around half an hour, and Dinesh Karthik in small bursts, rain allowing batted 10-15 minutes. So Vijay Shankar, according to our guess, is who they are looking at number 4. And obviously, because you look at the conditions, he can bowl as well, move the ball around in these nippy conditions perhaps. But the fact of the matter is that India's batting order will have some sort of upheaval. And this is only the 3rd match of the tournament. In the first 2 matches, it had a settled look. Despite the fact that it was KL Rahul at number 4, it was a settled look. Why is this important? Because the last time they played New Zealand in that warm-up, they were bowled out very cheaply. And, an unsettled batting lineup, that is a recipe for disaster, especially if New Zealand are bowling in these sort of nippy conditions. Once again, they have a terrific pace battery, don't they, Aditya?
They do, and I don't know if people remember this, but the last bilateral series between India and New Zealand, India did win this series 4-1. And especially once they were off to 3-0, in that 4th game was the first prime example of how Trent Boult and Matt Henry and even Loki Ferguson, for that matter, troubled India with their swing and bounce. And so has the pattern been of this World Cup. Pace and bounce have dominated. Pakistan did this. West Indies have done it. Australia have done it. New Zealand did it the other day against Afghanistan. And why I say this? Because especially when you consider somebody like Loki Ferguson, who didn't have the confidence but must have it now with that amazing spell. Once again, India's batting could be you can say, will be in for a strong test, I would say, because they have been facing New Zealand in the past recently, and they have not really looked too settled against them. The good thing for India, the little positive I would say, is that in both the games, almost all these batsmen, including the warm-ups I would say, all the batsmen have been able to spend some time in the crease, and probably that is what they should look forward to. Another important thing you mentioned was Vijay Shankar, because we just saw in the batting nets, Vijay Shankar was the first one to come in, and he batted for a good half an hour. So you get a hunch that, this might be India's 4 also, because prior to the World Cup, they had been grooming Vijay Shankar as number 4, and he's got the elements. I mean, he can come in. He played that innings of 49 against New Zealand, against Australia, mind you, and he can be that number 4. But again, the warm-up happened. KL Rahul got that 100, so yeah, you can't really put him out of equation. So But yeah, despite that, since I said KL Rahul moves up to the top, Vijay Shankar should be your answer to number 4.
One of the factors for New Zealand, I mean, yes, you mentioned Lockie Ferguson, but Matt Henry has been amongst the wickets. You had Jimmy Neesham, he's got wickets too. Yes, not very. He put out on Twitter, it's not very regular that I get 5 wicket hauls. You need a few matches, get going. But the fact of the matter is, as a bowler, he now has that confidence going under him, those wickets going under his belt. The fact of the matter also for New Zealand is that their batsmen are getting runs. Slowly their top order has built runs. Ross Taylor in such a fine nick. In every match, he's been getting runs. And at the same time, New Zealand, 3 on the bounce. Remember, these are the 2 unbeaten sides in the tournament now. Even England have lost. Even Australia have lost. Australia beaten by India. India, right, really built up their momentum with that win at the Oval. 2 wins out of 2 for India. 3 wins out of 3 for New Zealand. They've beaten Sri Lanka, they've beaten Afghanistan, and they've beaten Bangladesh as well. So, for a team like New Zealand, you would expect them to beat these teams. These teams, for every contender of this tournament, these 3 teams you have to beat. That's 6 points, and that's where New Zealand have delivered. So, in one way to look at it is that, okay, they've just beaten the teams which are ranked lower than them. The other way to look at it is, yes, they are in fine nick. They have gotten on a roll. They've gotten that momentum. And as we saw in the warm-up, they have the capacity to hurt India. And from an Indian point of view now, obviously we spoke about the upheaval in their batting. The bowling obviously is pretty strong. Right. However, do you foresee any changes, possible bowling changes? Because if it stays like this, obviously the ball will nip around. There's a possibility of a shortened game. Do you see maybe an extra pacer coming in? Or because Shankar could play at 4, that's where your extra element of fast bowling comes from?
You could, but there's always been this uncertainty regarding Tim Southee and his availability. But Gary Stead said during the previous game that he's probably not yet there yet, and that is the reason they are probably holding him back. In whose absence, I think Jimmy Neesham has done a terrific job getting those 5 wickets. But bowling-wise, I don't really see New Zealand bringing too much of a change. However, the one change I would like New Zealand to make is get in Henry Nicholls. And Martin Guptill, not really quite there. An experienced guy like him, you would expect him to start delivering. So I would see probably, Colin Munro and Henry Nicholls probably open the innings. Bowling-wise, I don't really see much of a change. And also because they've been on a roll. Like you said, the only...
You want to play the same team.
Yeah, you would want to play the same team. So yeah, that's... one of the important criteria probably New Zealand should look at, not change too much with their bowling order. Also, like you said, 2 teams unbeaten, New Zealand 3 matches, India 2 matches, but probably this is where it's going to get challenging for especially a team like New Zealand, who now face India, South Africa, West Indies and Pakistan next.
Well, India's schedule is also not that easy. Pakistan up next, although then they go and play Afghanistan and the West Indies before the big clash against England. Having said that, this... we talked about the possible bowling changes for New Zealand. From an Indian point of view, maybe Mohammad Shami coming in. But again, I just go back to what you said about Vijay Shankar getting ready in the series against Australia and the series against New Zealand. The fact of the matter is he was not getting ready just with the bat. He was also getting ready with the ball. And when you remember what the chief of selectors said, he's a 3-dimensional player. So you cannot just discount his bowling. Maybe these sort of conditions with Vijay Shankar in the playing 11 allows you that, you can retain both your wrist spinners, but at the same time, you have your pacers, you also have Hardik Pandya and Kedar Jadhav, and you have that extra buffer in terms of your military medium pace. It's going to be a cracker of a game if we get that game. It's a big if. All of us will be praying here in Nottingham to the rain gods. Please give us one dry day. One dry day today, one dry day Sunday. These games, very vital, very intriguing. It's India versus New Zealand, hopefully on Thursday.